somebody in my life committed suicide. So I was thinking, this person loved God, but he just chose to commit suicide. So what is our purpose in life if it is so easy to just go and be with God by committing suicide?
Question things, and I'm always like, I need proof for this. I was asking like my third grade teacher, well, if we're here, where did God come from? Things like that, just always thinking. And I've been nervous, and recently, especially with a lot going on in my personal life, I've been very nervous with, am I not strong enough in faith? What will this mean for me in the long run? After death, things like that.
Yeah.
And it can just be hard to really have faith in something.
Right.
Faith Defended is a Christian faith apologetics channel dedicated to defending the gospel of Jesus Christ, answering tough questions, and equipping believers with Bible knowledge. Join us as we explore apologetics and faith debates with Cliffe, Stuart Knechtle, and Sam Shamoon. Kindly like and subscribe for more apologetics videos.
You were talking a lot about like having faith in your journey, and I was wondering what that personal experience was like for you.
It really was important to ask the big questions first and to check out, is this whole Jesus thing, is the whole Christian walk, is that really credible? Does it really have weight? Is there really evidence behind it? So I didn't just come to the faith because my parents told me to or encouraged me to. I didn't come to the faith just because I saw all the benefits, although there are endless amounts of benefits to putting your faith in Christ. I had to come to the faith because I thought there's evidence behind it. And if I'm really going to live my life based off of an objective meaning that God says you can have if you believe in him, well, then I better check out to see if there's truly good evidence, hard evidence behind it all. And so I doubted and almost lost my faith my sophomore year of college. And I remember that was a real existential crisis for me. I went through a really bad breakup after 4 years, and that plummeted me into a type of place that I didn't want to go to. And I remember calling him at my dorm room desk saying, hey, I don't know if I believe this anymore. Help me, Dad. And yet, don't give it to me, Dad. I don't want it to be your faith. That's my faith. And so I did a lot of reading, a lot of searching. And I got to this point of saying, no, I cannot prove my Christian faith. No, I cannot prove Jesus was the Son of God. But there is a ton of evidence behind it. And once you experience, after you learn these things, and after you defend your own faith, and then hopefully help others defend theirs, then you can get to a place of experiencing God through prayer, through worship, through celebrating him, with other believers and getting their take on who Jesus was. So it came the question of, is there intellectual evidence? And then once I believed that there was, growing in the experiential evidence, which is something like it just mentioned, contentment. Can I actually grow in deep contentment by knowing Christ? And I believe you can. I recently had a non-believer almost break down to tears over dinner, where he was saying, I'm really jealous that you have this type of objective meaning and purpose behind your life that is so secure. I loved his honesty. He said, I don't have it. I don't believe in God. I'm not an atheist. I'm kind of agnostic, but I don't have it. And his wife chimes in and says, yeah, I kind of know what it is for him. It's his family. As long as his family members are healthy, he feels purpose in this life. But that's tremendously shaky, she said, and he doesn't want to admit it because he knows it's unhealthy. Because your family members are going to pass away. They're going to get sick. They're going to disappoint you relationally. Don't make your family members your God. They're excellent. They're one of our greatest joys in life. But to make them a God, that's going to be tremendously depressing in the long run. How about you? How did you really get to the point of trusting in God?
Always being around church and my family and stuff, it was the thing that was just taught to me. And I think on my own journey, it's been kind of hard to find that for myself. But we were actually talking about this last night. We're roommates, but because she came and heard Joel speak yesterday, and I was here 2 days ago, and I was like, it's hard to look at it and see how secure you are in it, and think how, if you're not in that secureness yourself, to think like, how can you feel that way? So it can be hard to view that. And I was wondering about, we were talking about being content and worshiping earlier. What does that mean to you? And what helped you to find your security in that?
So I'm singing Christmas hymns to my 3 daughters in like June, and they think it's very strange. Fortunately, they're under the age of 4, so they don't think it's too strange yet, but I promise you after the age of 7, perhaps, they're gonna be like, what? We're not singing Christmas hymns, Dad, in the month of June and July. But the reason why I like them so much is because they bring security to my life in a way where, oh, holy night, silent night, joy to the world. If you listen to some of these Christmas hymns, they are packed with evidence behind this world is evil and there's great light. Well, how do you explain that from an evolutionary perspective? How do you explain that from an other worldview perspective on this God loved us so much that sent his only son to be in a manger for us? No other worldview do I know of that says there is an objective right, wrong, an objective good, evil, light, darkness, and that the God of the universe loves you so much that he sent his only son. For me, a typical hymn written these days doesn't do a lot. Maybe I shouldn't be sharing this because I'm a pastor. So Dan, maybe cut this. But a typical like song in church that has recently been written doesn't do a ton for my spiritual walk. It helps me. It's healthy worship. But a lot of them are very simple and pretty redundant over one or two lines. But the old Christian hymns, Christmas or not, really hit my head so hard over healthy questions asking and then getting those truths down into my heart where I'm experiencing God through song and music. And a musician brought this up yesterday as well as an artist. And I believe art, music, creativity lends incredible evidence for there being a creative creator who created you to create. The devil wants to destroy you. He wants to destroy your art, your music, your talents that you're growing here at this university. It's the exact opposite. So for me, a lot of that contentment comes through worship. You know, there's a reason why Paul and Silas elsewhere are singing in a Roman jail. Singing. And all the prisoners, I can't even imagine how weird they thought these guys were. They'd just been beaten within an inch of their life, and they're singing to God and thanking and praising God. So that's how I grow contentment, and I've learned that from them. I'm not to the point of saying I have the same level of contentment as a Paul, for sure, but it's helped me to go to places like Haiti around the time of their tragic earthquake back in 2010 and see them with joy because they have a strong Christian faith and singing hymns in the streets at 4 a.m. in the morning despite losing so many loved ones from this tragic earthquake. Where do your biggest doubts come in? What causes those doubts?
I always have questioned things, and I'm always like, I need proof for this. I was asking like my third grade teacher, well, if we're here, where did God come from? Things like that, just always thinking. And I've been nervous, and recently, especially with a lot going on in my personal life, I've been very nervous with, am I not strong enough in faith? What will this mean for me in the long run? After death, things like that.
Yeah.
And it can just be hard to really have faith in something.
Right. Faith, that Paul talks about in Acts, is growing a trusting relationship with God, not some blind type of faith where there's this pink elephant on your side, like he likes to talk about, where I'm trying to convince you to believe in this pink elephant, even though we know there's not a pink elephant right here. And I couldn't pay you X amount of dollars, even if it's $1 million, to actually believe that. You know with your cognitive faculties, there's not a pink elephant right here. There's not a Loch Ness Monster right here. And so I would encourage you, what's really helped me, is to continue to meditate and contemplate on, okay, here's the Christian life. What's the security we have in the Christian walk in terms of who Christ is, how much he loves you, where did he say you came from, what does he say your purpose is now, and then where does he say you're going? Then, if you can, bring yourself over here. Say, if there is no God, let me meditate on that for a little while. Came from nothing, going nowhere. My life, ultimately, I could say my purpose is to help others, but it's just as legitimate to say my purpose is to kick people in the face and not help them at all. Now, does that jibe with your experience and what you think about when it comes to perhaps objective morality, a true right or wrong, where there has to be a moral lawgiver to have a moral law? I believe that you say you ought not to, you should not to. That you, when you look at evolution, even in the animal kingdom, you say, seeing that frog get its brain sucked out slowly by an insect, we know this happens, or seeing the praying mantis eat its husband slowly after they have sex. Even in the animal kingdom, we see good and evil. We think, no, that's not right. There's some level of brokenness there. So grappling with those types of questions, so often we forget to think. And as a therapist, my job is to pull somebody into the counseling office and get them to think harder. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy or existential therapy. Think harder about why this life truly matters. Or if there is no God, then it doesn't matter. You can be a nihilist and pretend, just deny that life has no meaning. So when we were at the University of Texas last year, I met some of the happiest nihilists I've ever met in my life. I said, how are you happy? Isn't this so inconsistent with your worldview? And they were like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it is kind of. But we just try and trick ourselves into thinking that life won't end and that my life actually has objective meaning and purpose. And I kept looking at them and I said, but that's so contradictory and you know it. They said, yeah, we realize that, but we just want to live a hedonistic life. You know, drink up today for tomorrow we die. YOLO, you only live once. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. You've probably heard of these things, these little hashtags. Well, that's a nihilistic lifestyle and thinking. So there's no God, there's no objective purpose. I'm never going to see my loved ones again. My work is not going to have much value in the long run. So I just want to live for pleasure right here, right now. The other worldviews and the other types of thinking are so bankrupt compared to the Christian faith, it's scary. But you can't just say that and say, well, that's why I believe in the Christian faith. No, that's a piece of evidence because we know our emotions and our experience are going to help us with evidence in choosing a worldview. But you also need the intellect, the reasoning, the rationale, the logic behind it. That's another thing. How do you get logic from a random, purposeless, illogical universe where you just popped up by chance? Logic is tremendously creative. It's complex. It's informational. It's not material. All you have is material if there is no God. So much of your experience shows, it tattles that there is really a God, a good God, and that's why we need to worship him and should desire to worship him. But it so often comes with thinking about the evidence, thinking about him, learning contentment, and then that connects with your emotions to grow with your emotions in connecting with him.
One of us makes the mistake of committing suicide. Somebody in my life committed suicide. So I was thinking, this person loved God, but he just chose to commit suicide. So what is our purpose in life if it is so easy to just go and be with God by committing suicide? And that's the great part that I'm kind of like, what's all this about?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an easy way to God?
Yeah.
It's easy. What is?
Paul talks about it's better to depart and be with the Lord than live in this heavenly body. Or Elijah, for example, says, God, take my life. Or David, for example, says, death's my only friend. Sounds like, eating my tears all day and all night. Sounds like he's pretty depressed. Lord, take my life. Job, for example, his wife keeps telling him, why aren't you taking your life? Curse God and die. So there's many examples of the top leaders of the faith who want that, who say that. I just want to live my eternal existence with God now, not in this body. Well, one of the 10 commandments is do not murder. Suicide is murdering yourself. It's taking your own life. It's saying I'm in control of my own life and I'm going to take it anytime I want to. That's a sin. But a sin does not keep you out of the kingdom of heaven. Because if that was true, then Jesus didn't need to hang on a cross. He didn't need to die for our sins. But he died for our sins, saying there's nothing you can do, no kind of sin you can do, like kill yourself, that will separate you from God. See, because I could be destroying my body, treating my body like a trash can, which sadly sometimes I do. I had too many honey buns this morning, I'm going to be honest, full disclosure. And I could die of a stroke or a heart attack after a few years of treating my body like a total trash can and not exercising. Okay, well, that's a buildup of totally having disregard for my body and the body that God gave me. Does that mean I'm going to hell just because I didn't treat my body as a temple and didn't treat this one vessel that God gave me here on this earth well? No, that doesn't mean I'm going to hell. That is a type of sin because I'm buying into different forms of debauchery and overeating. So nothing's going to keep you out of heaven in terms of a specific sin, remember. It's by God's grace, but it's by responding to that grace and living a life of growth in character. But suicide, so much of my Catholic friends, I'm glad many of them have not stuck with the original proclamation that the Catholic Church made, where they would take stakes and you wouldn't get a burial if you committed suicide. Not only would you not get a burial, they would take stakes and put it through the heart and push it into the ground so the heart had no chance of going to heaven. The soul didn't have any chance of going to heaven. Okay, I'm a mental health therapist. I deal with a lot of people who are suicidal. a lot of those people are very sick. Their brains are fighting against them harder than we could ever imagine. It's not just what we so often think when it comes to depression and suicide, where, oh, I have the blues and I'm just going to, continue just to cave in on myself and feel sorry for myself. And you know what? I want to go ahead and get some nice, attention by killing myself. No, not everybody's like that. I think those types of people who are not that sick, who are living that type of nihilistic lifestyle of my own personal autonomy, I'm going to take my life whenever I want to. Well, now we're talking about a serious sin. If they're saying, God, get out of my life, could care less. I knew a woman who jumped off the 3rd floor of a mall and passed away, and she was a strong atheist. I pray and hope she'll be in heaven, but there's no guarantee. She numerous times took her life, and what formed her, what got her to that point, was her atheistic thinking. There is no purpose to my life. And I'm angry at this idea of a God, and I don't care about people whatsoever. She was chewed up with this type of resentment and self-hate. Okay, well, a person like that, again, I don't think that pushes them to hell. But if she decided, God, get out of my life, and then by her own personal autonomy, I'm just going to kill myself, well, now you're in danger of hell. Yes. As opposed to so many people who just fall into sickness, where it's, I can't think straight, I'm catatonic. They need medication, and that lifts them out of their suicidality. See, so many people who get euthanized through euthanasia are depressed. They don't just want to kill themselves or have a doctor kill them. No, they're depressed. They've been immobile for so many years, and so their brain and brain chemicals just get completely depressed. It's about curing the depression, the neurochemicals that are darkened. So it's a sickness, not it's just a spiritual sin and you're not praying enough.
I've been trying to prepare what to say for 3 days. This
would be a good one.
So
no pressure.
Well, first of all, I'm a Christian. I didn't grow up in the church, but my parents are very religious.
Yeah.
So when I came here, I'm in a sociology class, and my sociologist professor brought up some ideas that really made me nervous, because to me my faith is everything. So one of the things he said was sorry.
No, it's fine.
That religion's just a social construct, that none of it's real. He compared Jesus to Santa Claus, how kids tend to act different if they feel that someone's watching them. That's the same for everybody here, and just that basically that humans made purpose, that religion is, or any type of faith is really just a man-made so I don't know, it really just got me thinking. I don't know, I was just wondering how you would respond to that. You've probably answered this question before, but
No, I think it's a new one. Yeah.
okay. But yeah, it's really I've always had a pretty strong faith, but I it stuff he says makes me really nervous, and I don't know what to think or how to respond to that.
Yeah.
Just
This professor is saying, from a sociological standpoint, everybody believes in God. It's a social construct. Maybe it helps us in some ways from an evolutionary perspective to survive, to get better. But then I think his slip started showing, even though he's a man. I think his slip started to show when he said, God is just Santa Claus for people. Because that's a little demeaning. I mean, he's supposed to be unbiased, isn't he? If it's so clear that it's just a sociological construct that's hopefully helping people, well, why would he speak down and in a derogatory kind of manner to students saying, it's like Santa Claus? There's something behind that. There's something emotional. I don't care what he says. He could say, I'm an unbiased academic professor at a fine institution. No, you're not. Sorry, if you want to get into psychology, every psychology study will show everybody has an emotional bias. You can be the smartest academic at any university, or you could be somebody who has tremendous learning disabilities. Everybody has some level of emotional bias when it comes to the God question. So I would hit him with that first. Why, professor? I thought you're supposed to be, really unbiased and really dry about this. You should just be giving me the hard evidence for why you don't believe there's a God. Secondly, I would agree with him. It is a social construct, religion. It is a philosophy of life. It is answering the existential questions. Most religions do, a lot don't. Yeah? How does that debunk the Christian faith? If anything, for me, it actually reinforces my faith. Because you're right, there's endless amounts of religions where it's just philosophical tools, where it's just a type of self-help behaviorism of where I can grow and become a better person. You know, so much of Buddhism is that, right? Getting better with your mental thinking, mindfulness, and meditation. And I love that. But hold on here. Wait a second. The Christian faith all hinges upon a historical event, whether it occurred or not. So it's not claiming to be a sociological construct, and nobody with even a hint of a high IQ would say that the Christian faith is a social construct. So maybe he's talking about other religions that don't hinge upon a historical event, because the Christian faith, hit him with this, is the only falsifiable faith in the world. Well, what does that mean? Well, historically, you can either say it occurred based off the evidence, or it can be falsified by saying, oh no, we found Jesus' DNA, he wasn't raised from the dead, and I would think you'd need a lot more than just that to debunk the Christian faith. But you just got to help them see in a very simple way. Oh, sorry, sir, you are right in terms of the sociology and the social construct of religion in general, but the Christian faith is falsifiable, and it's based on whether a historical event happened or not. Sir, now tell me, have you looked into the historical evidence? Because if this is just a Santa Claus and you're so certain this God doesn't exist, surely you've looked into the evidence, right, of whether Jesus Christ was a historical figure, what his claims were. What about people outside of the Bible? What they say about him? Did he do miracles? Was he ultimately raised from the dead? Surely you can tell me right now, right? All of the evidence, since you're so certain and you're this brilliant professor, certainly you can tell me why Christ wasn't a historical figure or wasn't raised from the dead. Now please tell me, because I want to be unbiased, sir, kind of like you. I want to be really unbiased and a genuine truth seeker. So tell me why I shouldn't be a Christian. Because if you can tell me, I don't want to be a Christian. I don't, because genuinely I want to be a truth seeker and I want the truth. So sir, please give me what is more reliable than Jesus Christ? Who is? And what is the worldview that has so much more evidence than this Santa Claus that you're claiming the Christian faith is promulgating? I really want to hear his answer. I'm begging that guy to come out here and give that answer. I guarantee you it will be embarrassing. I almost could promise you that, because we've had discussions with so many of these guys. It will be an embarrassing response.
Like, I didn't realize how important, like, really how important it is to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think, like, purpose for life, but also, like I said, I don't see a better option other than that, what it says in the Bible. You know how to live your life, and the love that I feel, like, just, like, being moved by reading the Bible or going to church and doing these things. So I think just like the idea, like, what if it's not real? Like, what if it is all just made up? Because one of the points that he made was that the Roman Empire pick and chose what books they would put in the New Testament and things like that. So basically that, like, it's all I don't know the word, like, human motivated.
Right.
Or...
So let's blast that one real quick. The canon, the biblical canon, was not created. It was discovered. Bruce Metzger, one of the top historians, said that. And what he meant by it was the early Christian church, as soon as the events occurred, the resurrection, post-resurrection, it was immediately being taught and preached around the entire known world that these events occurred. Mm-hmm. And we have historical evidence, endless amounts, outside and inside the gospel accounts of eyewitness testimony, that was preached and taught. Now, did some of those in authority at times, for example, like Constantine, did he make the Christian faith a form of power play because he had a grasp on a certain amount of it and used it for poor ends? Yes, but never has the biblical canon been corrupted by an evil pope, by the Roman Empire. I don't know where he's getting that from. by a number of things, because thank heaven, there wasn't just one Bible. There wasn't just one manuscript where someone could take and say, hey, I got it, let me change it. No, the manuscripts, the 6,000 of them that we have, and then if you look at other languages, we have so many manuscripts stacked up. We have 3.5, the equivalent of 3.5 Empire State Buildings. The ancient manuscripts we have from antiquity, from every other worldview and religion combined, stack of 4 feet. Okay, these manuscripts swept across the entire known world, so that somebody in the Roman Empire couldn't go get all of them and say, let me change them. Here we go. Sorry, they were too widespread. That would be impossible. And so thankfully, Christian monks, just like with all the other classical works, took what was in the canon and passed them along faithfully. So it's impossible. Don't ever let somebody tell you that, because sadly, he's getting that from Dan Brown, the Da Vinci Code, who starts off, all of these things I'm about to write about are factual. You go talk to Dan Brown, and he'll tell you, I was just kidding. I didn't do any research. I just wrote this book, the Da Vinci Code. I didn't mean to turn so many people away from the faith, but I did. So your professor probably got a nice little A+ when he read the Da Vinci Code on his paper. So what is the evidence for that? You need evidence. Don't let any professor here just drop 1 or 2 lines on you saying, here's how it happened, and here's the hard evidence for it. He's not going to have hard evidence. But the doubt piece, don't allow the doubt to shake you to your core. Because I ask the question a lot, and I know it's insecure for me. Did my dad grow me up with all this evidence, but it's still not true? How about the evidence that I sought after? It's just not true. No, look at David. Look at Job. Look at Habakkuk. I'm sure Esther was dealing with doubts as well before she had to make her great decision. Everybody struggled with doubts. Allow that doubt to push you into asking deeper questions, push you into growing a tighter relationship with God, rather than make you tremendously scared or perhaps even closed off to growth. So doubt can be a very, very good thing. Even doubting Thomas. Oh, you're not supposed to doubt. Jesus said, stop doubting and believe, didn't he? Okay, well, hold on here. He had all the disciples and his friends who were eyewitnesses of Christ and the resurrection. And so he had all the evidence in the world. So eventually Jesus gets to the point of saying, stop doubting and believe. But no, he had all the evidence in the world, because then he said, look at the nail prints in my hands, Thomas. Here's the physical evidence even. I'm standing right in front of you. And eventually Thomas gets to the ground and says, my Lord and my God. But see how Jesus allows doubt? He wants you to question. He wants you to grow in that kind of way. So we don't have proof ever. I don't have any proof that you're standing right here in front of me, right here, right now. And yet allow the evidence to continue to move you to grow in that faith. But don't feel insecure when those doubts come. Say, thank you, God. I'm going to let these push me deeper into growing by closer knowledge to you. Even my wife says it sometimes. If I'm really acting poorly, my wife will say, Stuart, I'm doubting who you really are. Fortunately, she hasn't said that too many times. But that's me. We're married. She's stuck with me for life. We're with each other most seconds of every single day. And occasionally she'll doubt me and who I really am. I'll doubt myself. So doubt is a natural part of life.